What's up, guys? So in this video, I wanted to go over PropWire.com and some lists that you can pull using this source because it's 100% free to download the data up to 10,000 records per day. So that's per day. So if you download, for example, 10,000 records today, you can go ahead tomorrow and download 10,000 more. But just wanted to mention that because that's something I found out recently when I tried to download a bigger list is that you can only do 10,000 per day for free. If you want to pay, they'll let you do more. But I just want to break this down because it's a free source to get lists. And I know a lot of people when they're first starting out, myself included, they just didn't have the money, or I didn't have the money at least to spend on lists and stuff like that. And it can get expensive real quick when you're buying a bunch of data. So I would recommend once you start closing your first few deals here and there that you kind of graduate, quote unquote, to like more expensive, better data. But when you're first getting started, PropWire is perfectly good enough to get you plenty of deals. So I'm just going to go over a couple lists that we like to buy using other sources, but you can get the same exact list with PropWire. So first things first, you would just put in, you can do it by a bunch of different things. You could do it by city, if you're in a particular city, county, state, zip code, or you can look up addresses on here. For example, let's just use the county in North Carolina, if I can spell it right. So this is a county in North Carolina. That's the market that we work in. So I'm just going to use this for this example. So put in whatever market you're working in first. And then they have these preset ones here that are really nice. If you don't know how to pull a list, you can choose one of these. But I would recommend you do it yourself and kind of learn how to pull lists and learn which lists work well for you. That way you can continue to do that with different data providers and you can kind of fine tune and see what lists work the best in your market, because what list works best for me might not work best for you and vice versa. So you might find a list that works great for you and in my market, it might not work for me. So I'm just going to go over a basic high equity absentee list real quick. So this is kind of a standard list that everyone will tell you to go and buy when you're getting started wholesaling. And it's true, it does work because basically these are people, absentee means they're not living in the house, they're absentee owners, which means they live, whether it's in the same state or a different state, they live somewhere else and they own a property somewhere else. So they have two properties and they don't live in the property that we're targeting, basically. So first things first, I would go into property types and I would just choose whatever you personally want to go after. For me, I choose single family, I choose condos, I choose multifamily 2 to 4, I choose mobile homes, and I choose land. I typically won't pull the multifamily 5+ in the same list. I'll typically pull that in a different list if I'm trying to target like multifamily apartment type deals. So these are the 5 property types that I would choose here. I would not include commercial, I would not include other, and I would not include 5+. So next, price, I wouldn't do anything here. Then we go to beds and baths. Again, I wouldn't do anything here. So I would go over to this more tab here. And this is where you can really get very specific on what you're trying to pull. So first things first, click on property filters. You can do it again right here. And you can also do it by square footage, year built, all this other stuff. We're not going to mess with any of that. What I'm going to do is go to owner filters. And like I said, we're going to do absentee owner. So click yes. And then the rest of these, I would just leave it blank. So you can choose, if you wanted to choose, you can choose out of state versus in state. We're just going to choose any. Now, all that means is that these people are living both in the state that they own the property and out of state. So you're going to get both. And then some people will only go after individual type sellers. We like to go after all 3. So you can either leave it blank or you can check all 3. Either way, you'll get all 3. But we like to go after all 3. So individuals, businesses, and bank-owned properties, you can do deals with any of those. Typically, most of your deals will probably come from individuals, but you can do deals with all 3 types. And then cash buyer, we'll just leave that as it is. So next, what I would typically do for years of ownership is 10 years as the minimum, and I wouldn't do a maximum. So now what that means is that these people have owned the property for a minimum of 10 years and upwards to however many years they've owned it. So it could be they've owned it for 10 years, it could be 11 years, it could be 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, for example. So I typically like to use 10 years for the minimum years of ownership. That makes sure that you don't get someone like, if you don't put this filter, I would recommend you always put a years of ownership filter, because if you don't, you might get people who literally just bought the property like 2 months ago and they're like, why are you calling me? And then you're wasting your money, you're wasting your time. So I would recommend that you do a minimum of 5, for example, like a minimum of 5, but I typically do 10 or more years of ownership, because typically the longer someone's owned a property, the more chance that they might be tired of owning that property, right? So That's what we like to do there. So again, I did absentee owner. I didn't mess with this. I did all 3 types here. Didn't mess with this one. And then 10 years of ownership. Next, we're going to go into financial filters. This is where we plug in the equity. So there's a few ways you can do this. You can do the estimated value. You can do estimated equity. You can do assessed total value, all these different things. I'm just going to keep it super simple. What we like to do typically is do 25%. So I'm just going to drag this slider, 25, whoops. There we go. 25% equity or more. That's what this slider represents. So in the green or blue, whatever color this is the filter that we're going after. So these are people that have 25% equity in their home or greater. For example, if the home is worth 100,000 and they have 25% equity or more, that means that their loan balance on 100,000, a property that's worth 100,000 is $75,000 or less, right? So that means that in that example, it's kind of a slim deal, but that means that it at least gives you some sort of spread that you can still make some money and they're still going to make some money, because most people are not going to sell a property if they're not going to walk away with some money. So if you want to get really like even more aggressive, you could do 50% equity. Typically, we like to do 25%. But like I said, the higher the percentage equity just means that the difference between the loan balance and the actual value of the property is greater. So when that difference is greater, for example, if someone owns a property with 100% equity, that means there's no loan against it, and they could theoretically accept $1 for that property if they wanted to, because there's no loan to pay off. So just a quick breakdown there on why we do that. So 25% equity. And then for foreclosure, I wouldn't mess with this. And MLS, I would always make sure that you choose. Actually, they don't have it on here. I'm sorry. That's a different website we use called DirectSkip that has an MLS filter that allows you to choose non-active listings only, so properties that aren't on the market. So for MLS, we'll just leave it alone here. And that would be it. So you can see the filters here on the right-hand side. These are the property types, absentee owner, then we did the owner type, all 3. And then years of ownership is a minimum of 10 years. And then equity, we did the slider over here for 25% equity. So then all we would do is click save and close here. And then as you can see, that narrowed down our search to 22,000 records. This is a big county in North Carolina. So that's why it's so many people. But if you wanted to narrow it down more, what I would do is play around with 2 specific filters. First, years of ownership. For example, I could do 15 instead of 10, and then let's see what happens. It cuts it down by 10,000. So that was a huge cut right there, just by increasing the minimum years ownership to 15. So if we didn't want to do that, the other filter I would play with is equity. So we could increase it from 25% equity to 50% equity as the minimum, leave the years of ownership at 10, and that decreased us only by 1,000. So if you really want to decrease it, it's typically going to be years of ownership that'll do it for you. For example, I'm only saying this because on PropStream, you can only download 10,000 records per day, like I shared at the beginning. So since it's still not 10,000, I would change this one more time. Like, let's just do 17, for example. This is kind of random, but just because PropStream only allows you to do 10,000, that's what I would do. And you can obviously download the first 10,000 of these results, but I would just want it to be less than 10,000 so that you get the entire list. So let's just round it all the way up to 20 years of ownership. And that goes all the way down to 6,000. So we'll just use that for this example. Next, you would click this checkbox right here. You would click select all. Make sure you click select all. And then you click this over here on the right-hand side, on the upper right-hand side. Click this. It'll open up, look something like this. Click download and click download only. And then they're going to ask you again, yes, download only. And then you would click download here. You don't have to check any of these other boxes. You would just click download. And then it's going to say your list is being generated. You go to your activity over here. And once it's done, it will show up here with a download button. And that's when you can go ahead and download it. So I don't want to make this video super, super long. That would be my recommendation to anyone who's first getting started on how to pull your first list using PropWire, a free list. And that's going to be a good list to start out with. Now you can go back and you can play around with a bunch of different filters. You can do one of their preset filters, for example, or you can just play around with this over here. It's what's going to give you a bunch of different list types. So for example, if you wanted to pull a foreclosure list, you could do pre-foreclosure, foreclosure, auction, or REO. I would recommend doing pre-foreclosure because you have the most time to actually help those people before they lose their house, if you're going to do that. And another one you could do, instead of doing absentee owner, you could do no here, and that would give you owner occupied properties only, so people who are living in the property. And there's a bunch of other filters you can play around with, but I can make a follow-up video if people want to. I just don't want to make this video like an hour long. So again, you would just click on your account here. If you wanted to find your list, you click on activity, and then right here, this is the one we just did. So now it's done here, and you can click download. And then once you download it to your computer, I personally would recommend this website here. It's called Direct Skip. This is what we use. And all you have to do here is make an account. It's free to make an account with them. And if you do make an account, they give you 500 records for free. And then you go over here to your files, and you would just upload this file, this green button here. You would upload this file. They have a YouTube video on exactly how to do this. That's linked right here. So I won't bore you with the details, but all you would do is upload your file here, and then you would map, based on their video here, you would just map each of the fields, pay for the skip tracing, and then you would get the phone numbers back in return. So for us, we pay about 6 cents. So as you can see, these are the prices here. So if you buy in bulk, you can get cheaper prices. But if you just buy their most expensive, it's only 10 cents per hit. So it's not that bad. So for example, I'm not the greatest at math, but I believe, like, for example, if you had 1,000 records and it was 10 cents per hit, I think it would only cost you $10. I think that's correct. So don't quote me on that, but however many records you have, just multiply it by the cent per hit rate, and then that'll give you the price that you end up paying. And they only charge you if they find the phone number. So if they don't find the phone number, you don't get charged. But anyways, enough pitching on this. It's not my company. It's just what we use personally. So once you do get your free list from PropWire, I would recommend that you use Direct Skip to skip trace it, just because I'll show you, for example, on our list, we usually get 95, 88, 99, 98, 98. This one was a mistake on our end. And then 99, 99. So you can see it's very accurate. This is the accuracy percentage, which means these are the people that they were able to find phone numbers for, if that makes sense. So anyways, I'll wrap it up right here. If you guys have any questions or you need any help with this process, just DM me on social media, drop a comment below. Be happy to help you out. And I hope this helps you get more deals. Thanks for watching.